Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back. So one of the most common questions that I get here on this channel is, hey Andy, how do you get fire before 35? And that makes sense, right? That's a legitimate question because this channel is called Andy's Fire Club. So today I thought I'd spend some time answering that exact question. I'm going to go through some of the basics of fire, and I mean like the very basics. So don't worry if you don't have any prior experience because we're going to go through all of that starting from zero. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump in. Okay, so before I talk about fire before the age of 35, you first have to understand what fire is on like a fundamental level. So what you want to do is start at the definition in this case. So according to Google, fire is combusting or burning in which substances combine chemically with oxygen in the air to typically give out bright light, heat, and smoke. So I'm going to take somewhat of a scientific approach here. So for those of you who remember your high school chemistry, fire is what's called a rapid oxidization process, and as the name suggests, you need oxygen to make it happen. And that's not the only thing you need though. There are some other requirements which we will go through in just a second, but oxygen is one of the requirements. On this note of requiring oxygen for fire to occur, let me just make a note that the sun is technically not a ball of fire as commonly described in just like colloquial language, since there is no oxygen in space. Well, there is, but like not in the form that you need for fire to occur in the vacuum of space. So the sun's energy comes from nuclear reactions rather than oxidization reactions, which is something completely different from one another. So don't get those confused, and we'll have to save the description for nuclear reactions for another day. However, as I was pointing out the requirements of fire, the other requirements besides oxygen, which you will need, will be something to burn and heat. And the something to burn is, fuel, right? So I think that the heat part is pretty self-explanatory. But for the fuel, I'm sure you guys have sort of an idea already of what type of things burn. So, for example, wood, fabric, coal. However, it is worth noting that sometimes some things melt instead of burn, so you won't be able to like light everything on fire. So, if you're trying to get a fire going, you need to pick a good fuel. So, something that burns instead of melts. If you have all those three things, though, that I just talked about, oxygen, heat, and fuel from the fire trifecta, then you will be able to get the fire going, right? So I call it a fire trifecta because, as you can see from this chart, it forms like a triangle, and if you remove one of the trifecta, the fire stops. So if you want to get a fire going, again, you need to have all three. So moving on, now that you know a little bit about the theory behind fire and why it works from a scientific level, let's talk about how you would actually start a fire. So the good news is that this is one of the oldest technologies that's known to mankind. So people have been doing this for a very long time. So early humans needed fire as a source of light. They needed to ward off dangerous animals. And to cook food. So it's just useful for so many things. So especially the cooking food part, because cooking food and like eating it before, like eating food after you cook it is a common practice now, but tens of thousands of years ago, it was a huge revolution, right? So cooking food kills many pathogens that might be in the food, but at the same time, it also breaks down the food a little before you eat it, which leads to less stress on your digestive system, and you're able to extract more energy out of it because you have to expend less energy to digest the food, and you can use that saved energy to develop other areas of your body, like, for example, your brain, right? So as a result, early humans were able to do so, and then their brains developed a lot faster than other animals, and then 10,000 years or more later, bam, the internet, right? So but I digress. I was about to actually explain how to actually get fire. I actually have another piece of good news for you if you are looking to get fire, which is that you actually don't even need to wait till 35. You can actually get fire right now. So what I have with me right now, let me see if I can find it. Sorry about that, it's right here. So what I have right now in my hand is a barbecue lighter. So you can use this to sort of start a fire. And as you can see, I probably shouldn't have done that like in my room, which is carpeted. But anyways, Although granted it only produces a small flame, but as I was saying that if you have the other two things I was talking about, i.e. something to burn and oxygen, you can quickly get a big fire going if you have the other two things. So if you're feeling rather old school though, there are a lot of other methods that you can start a fire that are a bit more low tech. However, it could be extremely helpful if you just don't have a lighter, if you're like out in the wilderness and you're like in a survival situation, and or just you're out and about or something like that, right? So for example, you can start a fire using friction by rubbing two sticks together. So I saw this really good video on someone who has actually been able to achieve this by a channel called Crazy Russian Hacker, and I'll leave a link down below to his video if you're interested. But yeah, the process itself is relatively straightforward to get fire, but I would be irresponsible if I didn't include a section on the risk of fire, because it can be very dangerous if not used properly. So first, starting a fire in any place that is not specifically designed to handle it can cause the fire to burn out of control, and it could also be a crime. So I urge everyone to think twice about the specific location and circumstance that's in. So I probably shouldn't have like lighted the lighter. So like do as I say, not as I do, right? So if you're camping and you're out and about and you're just like outside and you have a designated fire pit, like go right ahead, right? If you're in a small place with carpeted floors, maybe not. And to illustrate the risk, there was a huge fire that burned out of control in London, England in 1666, and it destroyed a large part of the entire city, and its effects literally changed the course of history. So it all started because some like bakery caught on fire. Also, back in 2017, there was this festival called the Fire Festival, which due to complete lack of planning or just blatant fraud, frankly, it turned out to be an absolute disaster. So what happened was people were promised like luxurious accommodations and gourmet meals and all that stuff. And apparently when they got there, it was like on an island in the Bahamas. And when they got there, it was just like emergency FEMA tents, and like it was like emergency FEMA tents on a beach, and the gourmet meals was just like 2 pieces of bread and whatnot. So yeah, it was an absolute disaster. Granted, the Fire Festival had nothing to do with actual fire. The spelling of the word fire is different. But the reason why I bring it up is because people have been referring to the Fire Festival as a dumpster fire, which I think pretty accurately illustrates how people feel, because they're saying that the festival was equally as bad as just like a steaming pile of garbage that's on fire. Anyways, be careful with fire. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? So on that note, I'm going to end the video here, and be sure to hit the like button if you enjoy the video, and consider subscribing if you like the series. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, links down below in the description as always. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. Be careful with fire. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? So, oh wait, I'm getting a phone call. Hello? Hey, boss. Yeah. What? What do you mean? What do you mean it's the wrong type of fire? I already did the video. Okay, I'm gonna upload it. No, I'm gonna upload it. I already did the work. So, yeah. Okay, great. Bye. Wrong type of fire. What is he talking about? Like, this is the right type of fire. There's only one type of fire, right?